Please welcome former Congressman and the host of the Liberty Report, Dr. Ron Paul. Dr. Paul, you say the Fed has been managing the economy through monetary manipulation, causing, obviously, as you've said, the overaccumulation of debt. You agree with them maintaining an average of 2% here. What should they be doing
Nothing.
besides not existing?
They shouldn't exist. People ask me that question all the time. So what should it be? You don't like what they're doing, and they're working hard. They're trying to destroy your money at 2% a year, which is insane, really. So no, they shouldn't be doing that. This whole idea that, well, Ron, tell us who you want. We'll put them in there, and then they can give us the proper policy. There is no proper policy when it comes to this. They don't know what the interest rate should be. They don't know what the money supply should be. They don't know whether regulations will help or hurt. So no, it's the whole principle of central banking that is the real evil, because that is what creates all the special interests, the military industrial complex, the medical industrial complex, everything's the social welfare system, and the foreign policy, which I think is way excessive, that we're in 150 countries just looking for problems. So you couldn't do that if you didn't have a Federal Reserve and us having the reserve currency of the world. That to me is the big issue. The dollar will weaken. It's in the process of doing that. How weak and how fast it'll go, nobody knows. But we can't keep this going, but we can't cut it off either. There's no way that the Federal Reserve next month is going to announce, well, we're going to shrink the balance sheet. We're going to start raising interest rates. They tried that at the end of 2018, and it caused a calamity to the point where they threw in the towel and said, modern monetary theory sounds like a good idea. Turn on the presses. And we've been doing it ever since. So the amazing thing is that the dollar has held up as well as it has. And people around the world still depend on the dollar because they depend on us providing their so-called security and all of these things. So it's in their interest for not to crash the dollar. So but eventually the dollar will suffer the consequences. Central banking will suffer the consequences. But the worst part about it, our personal liberties will suffer the consequence. This nonsense that's been going on for this last year, we had a reaction to the Federal Reserve policy, way back in 19, which was sort of the normal thing, having a recession. And then that came in, and then the exaggerated overreaction to coronavirus and the lockdown. I mean, you talk about a weak economy from what the Fed's doing, then they come in with this lockdown. It's an attack on liberty once more. They lock us up, and they don't think a whole lot about it. And all we do on my little program that I have, we talk so much about the universal passport, possibly an injected passport. So it's the issue of liberty that is the most important. So it would solve the problems of the economy, would solve the monetary problem as well. It would probably permit the discussion to come to an end, or at least move it along, metals versus cryptocurrencies.
And now, speaking of the Fed, we have a former Fed chair who will enter as Treasury Secretary. What did you make of that news, Dr. Paul?
Same old stuff,
Right.
I mean, and I tell people that, we have all these elections, and, they're breathtaking. What if we get this and this? And there are a lot of breathtaking events, the difference, because there's a lot of shenanigans going on, but not overall policy. Who is the president? It isn't going to change. The budget is not going to be cut. We're not going to be moving toward a balanced budget. We're not going to print less money. We're not going to get rid of the Fed. We're not going to make any inroads to the welfare state. And we will listen to the special interests, the military industrial complex, and all other organizations, from the food stamps to the poor, to the super food stamps to the rich, until the dollar collapses.
Groundhog Day all over again. Dr. Paul, most importantly, let's wrap with the question on everyone's mind and concern is money. And you've been talking about a violent correction that will hit the stock market. As we know, it's been bubbling for quite a long time. Let's flesh out your thoughts here.
It'll come, because it always comes. The one thing that Austrian economics teaches is the fact that there are too many subjective elements that participate. That wealth, there's a subjective theory of value and what people do and make their decision. It is a human action that you have to measure. So you can take it, and if the Fed is creating $6 trillion, and they're up to about 4 this year already. If they create money at the trillions and trillions of dollars, most people will say, ultimately, that can't continue. And things that can't continue don't. The thing that nobody should pretend, and I don't pretend, and say, well, tell us, when is it going to happen? And I don't know when it will happen, because I think there's so many variables on what the government can do, what the people can do. The government just printed tons of money, and they're worried the people haven't gone back to work. Well, they were getting more money from the welfare checks than they were if they took their job back. So it's all that interference that you can't measure, but it will come. I don't think there's any way they can escape it, and that will just go back to what we really think should be normalcy.
So how are you protecting yourself, Dr. Paul? Your investments you're in crypto, you're in gold, are you in cash?
Well, a little bit of all of that, but it's secondary because I want to be able to survive. I want to be able to help my family. I want to be able to avoid the inner cities, but ultimately, when I think about the gold and the crypto and survival, all this kind of thing, to me, the only thing that really counts is what the government does to me when and they've already done enough. Right now, I am a little bit peeved at the people going along with this lockdown stuff. A year ago or so, when this thing came on, I told my wife, because I enjoy going to the conferences, because
So do I.
they're like-minded people, and I enjoy it because they'll talk about the issues. And I said, you know what, Carol? I said, I might not ever go on another trip. I might not ever go to another meeting again, because I'm not going to get on that airplane and capitulate and be submissive to somebody writing rules that makes kids, much worse off, them sick. And the mask, there's so many studies out to show that the wearing of a mask and having double-blind studies, there is no difference. It prevents nothing bad happening from people just because you wear a mask. So the one thing is you lose your liberties, and just think. And when you talk about economics, what people are talking about, but they don't fully understand it, are the thousands and thousands of small businesses that get closed down and probably will never open again. I keep thinking about, I was never a New York City person, but I understood New York. Now I see boarded up streets, nobody going to plays anymore. That is so tragic. That's what the problem is. It's the undermining, our liberties to take care of ourselves and solve problems by the individuals, not by bureaucrats and politicians.
New York City is my home now, Dr. Paul, so I can definitely vouch that it is quite depressing these days. On your note about conferences, these can't be our last conferences. We have a lot more to attend.
Yeah, well,
we'll be back. We'll be back.
Every once in a while, a person will get me a ride to it, then I consider it.
Well, look forward to seeing you at those conferences in person again, Dr. Paul. As always, it's a pleasure speaking with you. And if I don't speak to you again before the end of year, I wish you a wonderful 2021.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Very nice to be with you.
And thank you for watching. We'll have much more for you on Stansberry Research. So be sure to keep watching and follow us on all our social media platforms. Thanks for watching. I'm Daniela Cambone.